Love you, Linda. Love you.
The courthouse the other day in the hallway, you're singing "Oh Happy Day."
One word prayer. Justice, where are you?
And Justice Served TV is on the air. Linda Kenny Bodden, how are you?
Hi, and you know what I'm going to do right off the bat? Just for everybody, we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary, and we hit over 27,000 subscribers. Remember when we were groveling for you to get us to 26,000? Not even a week ago.
The groveling continues.
The groveling is going to continue, but I've noticed that all the YouTubers and law tubers and all tell you to hit subscribe, like, share, notify right at the beginning, right when we start. So even if there's only 10 of you watching or 20 of you watching, if you hadn't hit subscribe, please do it now. And one of the important things about doing it is that when gifted memberships are given, if you are a subscriber, you could be randomly chosen to get that gift. So it has some benefits. And for us, it has a lot of benefits. And join us in the chat, share, rechat, join us in the chat after the show ends and the breakouts and everything, and help us get to the 30,000 mark, which is our next goal.
Very good. And so today, we've heard a lot about, obviously, the Adelson case, as the Adelsons turn on one another. The foreperson has been very vocal, but in an interesting way, I think. And I mentioned that when I was teasing what we were going to be doing. She's doing TikTok. She has total control, basically, over how she's presenting herself, her thoughts on the case. She was interviewed by, I think it was the Tallahassee newspaper. But primarily, it's been her, and here she is on TikTok, and here's her very outgoing young lady getting married in December, from what I've gleaned from everything. So I thought we would look
Very
at
smart. Very smart.
We would just look at some of her postings and just comment on it as it relates to her being the jury foreperson, how the deliberation process works, how a personality like this might affect the deliberations, right? So one of the first things I want to look at, as I was scouring, kind of like a stalker, I'm scouring her TikTok looking for, some things that we can look at. And again, I'm always up against which way I display this because I have issues with my audio. And on TikTok, all of them kind of look the same. When I'm looking at them here to see which one it is, they all look the same. They all look identical. So I'm going to be, it's kind of a crapshoot is what it is. I'm going to guess it's this one here. Nope, wrong. I'm going to guess this one. How about this one? How about, there it is. Okay. So this is before she even got to deliberation, long before that. Okay.
And she has a name. Yeah,
that's right. It's Jacey, or as her TikTok handle is Lacey with a J, which is Jacey. Yeah. And so let me see if I can pop this out here. Uh-oh. No, I didn't want to pop it out over there. Stop. I don't want you over there. I want you over here.
Super cute piece of mail. And how'd the city know that I wanted to do that?
Okay.
No, but on a real note,
we'll do this again. Are you hearing anything or no?
Yes, I hear.
Okay, I'm going to re-rack it. I'm going to re-rack it. I did it. I put it as high as I could.
Let's re-rack it.
I got a few really cute gifts for my birthday, but I think my favorite one was a super cute piece of mail. And how'd the city know that I wanted to do that? No, but on a real note, I'm actually excited for it. I've been jury duty just seems kind of cool and fun, and everyone has such a weird hatred for it. Sure, it could be inconvenient, but I mean, you don't have to go to work for a minute. You don't have your kids with you. What more could you ask for? Jury duty summons.
So there she is. She's excited about jury duty long before she's doing jury duty.
It's so great having jurors excited. Both sides want jurors who are excited about the case that are coming in.
And she says, she's honest about it. She says, maybe it's going to be a little inconvenient, but
you don't have to go to work and you don't have your kids.
You have to go to work and maybe no kids. So, she's definitely glass half full kind of lady.
I love it. I love to have a juror like that on any case.
So, and then she also reacts, I don't know if we'll get to it or not, but she also reacts to some folks. Whenever you expose yourself like this, and I don't know what her number of followers was before this, but it's a little over 8,000 now. So, obviously part of it is this, but people are mean, and they've
Oh,
said
right.
nasty things about her. And so she just responds,
Good for her. Good
yeah,
for her.
that
Jacey, respond away. That's what
she's,
I do. I respond away.
she's definitely not a wallflower,
Good.
a shrinking violet. So let me see, because
And
she's
that's
chopped
good. That's good in the jury. That's what
Oh
people
my
want.
gosh.
Lawyers want somebody who's going to stand up for what they believe, especially
Sure.
if you believe they're going to help you.
And again, as I've always said, you've got alphas and you've got sheep, wolves and sheep. She's the wolf. She's an alpha type. She's take
Good for
charge.
her.
Yeah. So this one, let me see if I can get this one fired up here. Oh, is this one right? It's amazing. I'm
When
hearing
she
that. You're not
opened,
hearing that,
did
are
she?
you?
No, I'm not here. I'm not hearing
Okay.
it. When she
Okay, good.
opened that, did it say the name of the case, or was it just a report? And they all
No, it
signed?
never would. It would never say the name of the case. It would just say
Yeah.
you're at a pool and here's your time to approach and be checked out. The problem with TikTok is everything is just kind of you can scroll between them, but they're not necessarily in the order that you would like. So I am trying to find one that's I don't want to just show her doing whatever she does on TikTok. I want it to be the ones that we're looking for,
Right.
and I'm having a horrible time. Okay, let's see if this one is one of the ones I would like. No, it's not. Why is it not? When I click on it, it's not the one I want. I don't understand. I do not understand why.
It's giving you agita, right?
It is
It's giving
doing
you
that.
agita, like some people have jury duty agita, and she did not have jury duty agita. But some people, she's right. Some people hate it. When I get my jury summons, I'm usually happy. I'm never going to serve on a jury, but I always have hope. Hope.
Yeah, and I've pushed mine because of the Adelson trial, and I visited down there that week. That was jury duty week, so now mine's been pushed to the end of October. I've got a deferral, one more deferral. I got to be honest with you. I'm not sure how I can get the one I want opened up when I click on it and it opens up something different. Okay. Oh, I think I found one. These may be slightly out of order, but basically what she did was she started responding to people's questions about the process and about what she was involved with. So. Having done that, and maybe I'll get lucky with a few of them, but this one did come up, and I think this is a good one. Okay.
I don't hear anything though.
Oh, you're not hearing anything on this one?
Nope.
Okay. Okay, let's see. I'll do that. And then let's try it this way. Pretty sure I did sure I did the right one. No? Okay, maybe not. Let's see which one we got here. Okay, I'm going to trust myself on this one. We'll see what happens. Okay, ready? Just let me know if you're hearing it.
Yes.
I wasn't actually on the jury. I just made it up because I obviously just wanted the attention from this. Yeah. Oh, oops. To be a juror in Florida, you must be at least 18. No current criminal offenses. Yeah. Oops.
That was me. Sorry. I just wanted to say, obviously, people have been saying, you want this is your 15 minutes of fame, or you're a fake, again, attacking her.
To be a juror in Florida, you must be at least 18. No current criminal offenses. Not a current law enforcement officer, anything like that. You can be excused if you're like over 70, whatever. I went through 2 entire days of questioning before I was selected to serve on the jury. Both parties, and the judge vetted me, and they chose me. So if you have a problem with me being on the jury, at the end of the day, that's just not for me to worry about. And I am so sorry that I don't look the way you would want me to look. I don't know what looks have to do with anyone being on a jury. Yeah, it's crazy. And I see a lot of people saying the ex-military person should have been the foreperson. He is one of the first people to say he did not want to be the foreperson. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell you there.
Interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And a lot of people are saying that I'm the reason an appeal is going to happen. which is just crazy because if you actually watched and really listened to anything I said, it, it's just no words, no words. Yeah, I've said absolutely nothing that could hurt the verdict that we came up with. Okay, like I'm not, whatever. And God forbid I be on TikTok. Oh my gosh, somebody arrest me. And you know, again, I'm so sorry. I'm just so sorry that I mispronounced a couple words. I mean, do you know what it's like to have your brain working faster than your mouth sometimes? Like there's just a lot going on. That was a very intense 2 weeks. But you know, a second hand, I guess, no, you probably don't know what that's like because you're not using your brain. So I apologize. And you know, with that, like I don't know why a lot of you are even just running to the comments and saying that I am just so excited that we gave a guilty verdict. If you actually listen to what I was saying, that's not the exciting part for me. This is my first jury experience. I thought it was very exciting to do my part as a citizen and be selected after that very intense questioning for 2 whole days. I learned so much and I like to learn, and that's exciting to me. If that's not exciting to you, that's okay. It's okay.
It's clear she's responding with these different
Somebody.
criticisms. You know, people, they sit in their, you know, glass house and they start throwing these stones, you know, because they're so much better than you, right? That's
Right.
They're so judgmental. And, you know, she's been getting barraged with people, you know, saying that, you know, she shouldn't have been on the jury, that how she helped them get to the guilty verdict is going to lead to an appeal. It's crazy.
That's it really is, but it's very interesting that the ex-military guy didn't want to be
Yeah.
first thing. I don't want to be
He's
the
like,
foreperson.
pass. I'd have to look at my notes to see what I know
Well-
about him in terms of his military experience. You know, was he a rank and file? Was he a, you know, a non-com? What was he? So,
Or also, you know, people have different things. Maybe because you had a female defendant, the male felt that you know it was inappropriate for him to be on, you know, there, or maybe he had strong thoughts. I don't know. We don't know. We didn't hear the colloquy when the jurors were getting selected, right? That's the problem with both Reed and here. We never heard the colloquy, so he may have had absolutely good reason to think that he wouldn't be the best person to be the foreperson.
yeah, and that's, you know, that's fine. And it sounds like almost after that she stepped up. That's what it sounds like. Didn't sound like there was a lot of discussion beyond that. He didn't want to do it. I did it. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
You don't have to watch my videos if you didn't know that. You don't have to.
That's my view. That's my view. You know, when we do our question and answer show, that's my view. When I answer questions, sometimes you and I get on and we'll answer questions in the chat, people that have been nasty to us about how we do our show. You don't have to watch the video. You don't have to watch us.
Nope. And you know, there are 7 billion people on the planet, and the beauty of this is, you know, and one of the comments that I see come by are, you know, like, greetings from, you know, Poland. Yeah, I mean, you know, there is truly a worldwide audience. There are some language barriers, obviously, but there's still enough people left that if you have a problem, you could probably find something else you're better suited to. You know, we won't be offended. We don't care. You know, if you can't find what we do worthwhile, then don't waste your time.
Also, if you can't understand that I clearly have like a sarcastic sense of humor, that is also okay, but it's really not my problem to appeal to you and make you happy. I'm not going to make everyone happy and please everyone that I come across in life, and that's okay. That's not my goal. Again, you're not required to watch my videos.
I like that too.
Anyway.
That, you know, I'm sarcastic. You know, if you can't handle that, you know, move along.
Let's get into it. I got a lot of questions about the snacks from Costco from Judge Everett. They were okay. I mean, having 2 kids myself, like, I'm just like, the snacks that we got were kind of like, you know, it was very sweet though. Like, he didn't have to get us anything, so the fact that we had snacks was great. I know we had like fruit snacks. There was like those little cracker sandwich things, peanut butter and cheese ones. Though Nutri-Grain bars, chips, some chocolates, lots of coffee. And the only time we were provided lunch was the last day. So before, you know, because even though we weren't deliberating just yet, we weren't able to leave the jury room for lunch. So they ordered us some Marco's pizza, which I love. I love Marco's.
Pizza, I love it.
Possibly ordering Hungry Howie's, and no shade to them, but I'm glad they chose Marco's. And I don't know why.
So she has not just pizza, but a favorite pizza place that she likes to go to. I did not, unlike in Dedham, where I know the pizza very well there, I didn't really get a feel for the pizza there in the near the courthouse. I just I was busy at lunch. I think I was bugging you, so I didn't.
Right. We were doing our lunch show when
Yeah.
you were down there all week on the first week of the Donna Adelson trial.
So after a minute,
But
Mario's.
you
Is
did
that
get
she said?
you did get a good look at the jury.
Mhm.
Did you get a good look at this juror, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, she was in the front row, second from the left, so furthest from me would have been hard left. So she was one in from that. Didn't notice anything about her that would stand out. Attractive, young blonde girl. As the whole jury on balance was young. That was a huge takeaway. A couple in the 50s, maybe a couple in the 40s, and really everybody else 20s and 30s. And so that was striking to me. But within that context, no, she wasn't making a lot of movements. Didn't see her taking more notes than anybody else. Didn't see her chatting with people. So no, I mean, and you can see this is a chatty girl, right? Woman.
Right. Woman.
Yeah, but she was, you could tell as well she respects the process. And from everything I saw, she definitely respected the process. Never saw her do anything that seemed out of line.
Why people are so adamant that we were fed dinner and that took up most of our deliberation time, but that's not the case. We didn't get dinner. They came in the bailiffs came in probably 30 minutes before we reached our final verdict, asking if we would want dinner, but also explaining that it would take probably an hour to get there. And I was just like, no, like that's okay. You don't need to waste money to feed us when it's not going to be necessary.
Wow.
So
wow, that was about an hour, really.
Well, and I'm just amazed that she's even concerned about saving money for the county to get them another meal.
Wow.
My experience is jurors believe they've earned a couple of meals, and so that wouldn't have been a consideration. The time might have been a consideration, but not the cost to the county.
And yes, Judge Everett, he's great. Like, he actually really cares about his jurors, and he's very well poised and does a great job at keeping his courtroom in order. So I really appreciate that about him. And then there's a lot of questions asking if I or the other jurors stayed for impact statements. No, we weren't allowed to. Once Judge dismissed us from our duty, bailiffs had to escort us to our vehicles for us to leave. So yeah, we didn't get to see them. Along with that, I also have not looked up like the other trials or anything else about the case, just because, like I said, it's been a very long 2 weeks. There's just a lot in my head trying to like mentally recoup from that. So my brain needs a break. I haven't. I also have a lot of people asking if my mind was made up before we deliberated. No, no. I stayed neutral through the end of the trial, just like we're supposed to. Everyone's presumed innocent until proven guilty. I kept my mind open and I took notes on everything, from when both the prosecutor and the defense were arguing their points. I took notes on everything. And what did we think of the attorneys? I mean, I can only speak for myself. I'm not going to speak for the other jurors. That's up to them. I thought the prosecution appeared a lot more organized and well prepared, but also that's their job. The defense, on the other hand, I of course found them to be a little unorganized, but in their position, they technically didn't have to argue anything. That's the burden of proof was on the state and not the defense. So they could have quite literally said nothing and they wouldn't have been in the wrong. So it is what it is. A lot of people seemed really focused on my age, which is very strange to me. We had a super balanced jury, like a big age range. I was not the youngest one on the jury. And once again, if we're looking at the jury requirements in the state of Florida, you only have to be 18 at minimum. So I mean, like, if you don't like that rule, whatever.
So, yeah, I think that's funny. She's pointing out that people, I'm in that category, were pointing out how young the jury seemed. Well, that's because I got a bunch of juries in my experience, both in front of and in journalism. This is her first jury experience, so she has no clue that she was on a very young jury. So to her, it seems almost like some sort of ageist kind of comment. What, you think we're too young to do this?
Right.
No, that is not the point. The point is that it's a strikingly young jury.
And then got a lot of questions about crime scene photos. Yes, we did see them on the first day of trial and then also the last in some closing arguments. Also, back to like the appeal thing, I can't reveal too much when all I have said is like my opinion on, first of all, some things, and then just we literally only had to go off of evidence. So I don't know how I could reveal too much of things that have already been revealed. We had the definition of the laws spoken to us, and then we also had a copy of them to take back to the jury room. So like when we went over everything multiple times, yeah, we went over how the evidence applies to those laws multiple times. It's not hard to have common sense, but whatever. I just, I came to share my insight, but there's a lot of people who took it the wrong way, and that's okay. So although this has been fun, I think this is going to be all for me because it's just whatever. I hope you all have a lovely weekend, and I hope some of you act like better human beings than you have, especially to those strangers on the internet.
Yeah. So she calls these folks out, for being jerks to her, which is good for her.
Good
for her.
Good for her. I agree. Good for her.
Now I'm kind of doing it backwards because I've not figured out this part. But this was when somebody asked about Wendy being involved.
Also, probably along at the same time. Yes, I do. And do I think she is next? Do I think Harvey might be next? Absolutely, I do. Now, the state hasn't said that specifically, but there's evidence.
By the way, she posts these at this accelerated speed. So unless I pull it off YouTube and can adjust the speed, this is how she posts these. So.
Okay.
Showing that they were aware of what happened, and I mean, I had to think back and take my notes because, write down new notes. We couldn't take the notes that we took during the trial out of that jury room. They get disposed after deliberations.
Yeah, that's important. People probably wonder about that. Do they get to take their notebooks home? Can they, a memento? No. They don't take them home during the trial. They don't take them home at the end of the trial. They get destroyed.
My details. Now, if and when the state goes after Wendy, I think they will. I think it's going to be to a lesser degree. It's not going to be the same charges, only because she insulated herself from her family, from the situation very, very well. Very well. And she also played dumb very well. I feel like that's when we saw the acting that Miss Donna referred to previously. She plays that part way too good. So I do think that she will be next. I just don't know what extent. I don't know what she will be indicted on, but.
So I think that's interesting that she doesn't believe that the top charge is going to apply to Wendy. I think she's wrong. I think the evidence we're aware of suggests that she did more than just deal with, covering it up or, some accessory after the fact. What do you think about that? Her as a jury member thinking.
Well, we've seen that. We've seen that addressed. Some people don't feel that when there's enough evidence against Wendy, some people are very vehement, there is, but some people don't feel that there's enough to show that she planned it because she was smart enough. And I think even Donna said something about her being smart. She said something, Charlie has protected you all these years and you don't come through for him at all and all. So it almost sounds like, and then, I had an interesting thought the other day with one of our viewers talked about the assassination, not the assassination plot, but it really was. It was the previous hit plot in June, right? And the first thing that she does is tell Jeff that her brother was responsible. So maybe that was her setup to as the Adelson's turn and to insulate herself by telling Jeff that if she was involved. Again, right now, as she stands before you, she hasn't been charged with anything, and she's presumed innocent.
And there's just a couple of things that, maybe this jury, because it was not their job, they aren't thinking through, like how does Donna get the license plate to give to Sigfredo Garcia? And,
right. Schedule.
Does she know that information? Do you know, in-laws license plates? Probably not. And if it's a vanity plate, maybe, but certainly not just the numbers and the make and model of the car. Where'd that info come from? And you're right, in the schedule about when he was definitely going to be home and the kids were not going to be around because they weren't going to be at school. All that stuff, it has to come from Wendy. In the absence of evidence to the contrary, I got to see something. Like if somebody presented evidence that said every week Donna Adelson gathered all of this information, just so
whoa. I'm sorry. It came right through my ear. My earphones, just like something blasted through my earphones. I don't know what it was. I apologize.
Is that you've got Wi-Fi? Something's infected your Wi-Fi.
I apologize. I interrupted you by
I heard something. I thought it was a baby crying.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like to me too. Right.
So maybe if somebody showed me evidence that every week Donna Adelson collected that information just as a matter of routine for whatever reason, because she's a control freak. Okay, well then it takes a little, but I don't expect to see that evidence. I expect that there was there was a specific intent by Wendy to inform her mother of that information so it could be used in the big plan. Shall we continue? Let's continue.
Absolutely, because what she has to say is so
100%
important.
involved. 100%. Because how would they know Dan's routine, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, they were given his address, whatever. But the killers, the hitmen, they would have needed some sort of insight as to where they can find him, like what he would be doing, all of that, right? It's crazy. Also, her whole testimony in her mom's trial, I don't remember. I don't remember 500 sips of water. That has guilt written all over it. Anyone who knows anything about like interpersonal communication or body language, she's dripping in guilt. Okay. I honestly, I don't know how she sleeps at night, to be honest with you, but mine, it's whatever. You're here nor there right now. As far as, did we discuss that in the jury room during deliberations? Not necessarily. We just described, like, we discussed things about her relating to her testimony and just like things in regard to the case because we had to stay on point. You know, that's what we were there to discuss. So not so much if we think she's next, but after we were released from our service, walking back, being escorted by the bailiffs to the where we parked and stuff, it was very interesting to hear everyone's opinions because at that point in time we were allowed to talk about it because we were dismissed from the jury, whatever. Everyone agrees. She's probably gonna be next. We just don't know to what extent.
That's what Stephen Webster says.
Inflated herself to the seat.
Yeah, I mean, these folks have a very interesting perspective on it. I mean, remember, they came into this pretty clean, pretty squeaky clean. Nobody had.
Most jurors didn't even know about the case, never heard about it.
Yeah, and you know, it's so hard to believe that if you live in that community, and for 11 years it's been in and out of the news. But okay, you know, people have lives and they don't focus on this stuff.
And they're not watching the shows that we're watching or watching us as hosts. No one watched us as hosts, so it's okay.
Well, that was a big. Let me twist the knife. Yeah. So So if you go in that clean, and this is what you walk away with, you know, remember in this trial, they weren't trying Wendy, so anything they picked up that, I mean, this juror, she thinks Wendy is dripping in guilt, as she described it, based on 500 sips of water while she was testifying. I mean, the stuff people bring to the process is fascinating to me. Somewhere she has in her background some you know, body, I don't know, what would you call it?
Body language.
I guess some interpretation of the body language.
Right.
And so she thinks, yeah, she's guilty, not sure of what. But when they all left and they're walking to their cars and, hey, thanks, you know, and because it's a weird shared experience, right?
Right.
And now they're offering to one another, hey, what do you think about Wendy? Who's going to be next? And the consensus is Wendy, but a little unclear on what the charges might be. So that's from a clean group of 12 people.
And they had to stay on point, though, on this. So
of course.
But she's a jury foreperson. She kept them on point. I love her. I love Jacey with a J.
It was only
with a J.
After they'd done their job where they allowed themselves to kind of speculate about what might happen going forward.
Right.
Situation in her family way too good. Like I said, she plays the role of dumb, and you know that term ignorance is bliss. Like she is taking that to a whole new level. Now, she states that in her testimony, she the morning that Dan was shot, right? She was going to meet some friends for lunch, but she had to stop by the liquor store for like a stock at the bar party later on, whatever. Now, the liquor store she chose was completely out of the way. The route she took completely out of the way. There was that exact liquor store that was closer to her house and in the complete opposite direction, but she chose to go this very long route out of the way, and says she normally takes Trescott Drive, so she goes to try to turn, but there was the roadblock because at that point in time, law enforcement had arrived on scene. Dan was rushed to the hospital, yada yada yada. She says she encountered the roadblock, turned around real quick, and just like went a different way to the liquor store. Then they also brought in another witness. The state brought in another witness, the officer who was working like at the roadblock, basically, and he states, which contradicts what Wendy said, that you could see Dan's house, the crime scene, all of the police cars and EMS, whoever else was there, right? You could see that from the house, from the roadblock. And whereas she claimed you couldn't see it. So knowing that, he also identified her car in the trial during his testimony. He saw her car, and most people, like when they get to a roadblock, they, kind of turn slowly to get, like, we're like, oh, what's going on? Like processing it. No, she like whipped in and out, right? And now knowing that she could see the house, and she didn't make any calls to the daycare, to Dan, to check on him, the kids, no calls to law enforcement to see if anything was okay. I mean, like, come on, it just doesn't add up. It doesn't add up at all.
So, I mean, she's basically repeating Georgia Kappelman's arguments, right?
Right.
I mean,
Right. Which is
it's
what
just-
you said when you did the drive, though.
It
You
was-
said
it
the same
was.
thing.
Yeah, it was. And at that
Yeah.
point, my sticking point was because there are a lot of ABC liquors there. And even back then, there were a lot of ABC liquors there. I would need evidence that the bullet bourbon she needed, it was rye, which is a little different kind of whiskey, was not available at the one most directly on the route. Now, that was never in evidence. No clue about that. But that would convince me that maybe that route was necessary. But in the absence of that evidence, I was, as I said in my drive along video, I wasn't buying it.
What else do I have? And then her ex-boyfriend Jeff Lacasse testifying. Now, granted, I will say I think it's very weird that she told him about the hitman thing in confidence, and then he didn't report it. But again, it's what are you gonna do at this point?
But see, that was my point. What are you going to do at this point if you're Jeff? What do you do with that? You look like a nut job. You go to the police, and then she just denies it. And what are you going to do with that? That was the point that we answered the questions on in our chat that I was typing earlier today.
Yeah, it's after the fact, it's easy to say that. Hey, why didn't you go to the cops about that, right?
Right.
Towards the end of their relationship, they were discussing, like the relocation thing, because apparently that Wendy always talked about that, and like the divorce file, yada yada yada. And she said, "Well, can I tell you something in confidence?" And she said, "Yeah, my brother looked into that hitman thing because at that point in time, he was there to witness a joke from Charlie, like, oh, the TV is cheaper than a hitman or something like that." I'm getting off track. Anyway, anyway, his testimony, like basically the last time that they got together, July 11th, 2014, they met up somewhere. I think it was hot yoga. And basically he, at that point in time, knew the relationship was over. So he literally backed off as they were leaving, whatever, didn't say anything. But then Wendy turns around and asks him very weird and specific questions about his travel plans in the coming days. And, with that, the first time the hitman had come to Tallahassee, they rented a car, a Nissan, that looked just like Jeff's car at that time. And at that point in time too, she was asking specific questions about his travel. So, there's just a little weird. I think she's trying to set him up. And then all the details that they had, she had to have provided it. I mean, obviously. And then, let's see what else. Calling her kids by her last name before Dan was ever shot. And then legally changing their last name and the older one's middle name, mind you. Middle name and last name 1 year after he died. And also with that, she didn't take the kids to his funeral. That's a little strange. Yeah. They both, Wendy and Harvey, both knew. They didn't say anything. That is a crime in itself. And I do think they're next. I'm just curious to see when and what they're charged with. Long story short, but also.
So I think it's interesting that she mentions the changing the kids' names before he was shot.
Right.
We did the top 5 things from earlier this week. Top 5 things that lead to the potential arrest and or conviction of Wendy, and we've not looked at her testimony because of the immunity deal. One of those things was the fact that he was shot while on the phone with the school because she had tried to register the kids. Now, we don't know if that registration was in Adelson name, Markel name. I raised it because it was clear she was already doing stuff behind his back. Somewhere else in the testimony, as this juror points out, they did talk about that before he died, she was maneuvering to change the kid's name. Was it in that phone
and
call?
he took a lot
we
of
don't
heat.
know.
He took a lot of
Yes,
heat
and
on
people are like, that
but-
didn't happen. Oh my God.
But there's this juror's even pointing out that it did happen, and
It
it may
did
not have been
happen.
in that phone call. But your view of it, that see, I thought he was on the phone with a friend, but your view was that that's not the issue. The issue is that she was trying to maneuver to change the names before he died.
Yes, and in that
And this
call,
juror said the same things.
and we haven't heard from the person who was on the phone. That testimony would be key because they're going to talk about, well, yeah, not only is she registering them, but if true, she wants to use this other name. We don't know if that's true, but my point is he's getting a call about registering the kids, doesn't even know it's happening.
Well, he was on the friend who he was on the phone with did testify briefly. It was in and out, just very briefly. But there was another phone calls, what I think you were saying.
Well, I'm talking about the one that was happening when the shots went off. That was the school.
I thought that was
person.
his friend. I thought that was his
No,
friend who testified.
that was the person at the school science something academy or something. No, and that phone call was about the registration of the kids. And he says, "Oh, hold on a second. There's somebody in my driveway I don't recognize." And the next thing that person hears is bam, bam, as the shots are fired. That was the school person. Whether they got to the names of the kids, I don't know. That's a different issue. But my point was, he doesn't even know that they're getting registered in any name.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if I can find, because I've gone backwards now. See if I can find what would have been part one. Sometimes they are not all that clearly identified. And part three we did. Part three was, I thought part three was fascinating because she was just responding to all of the trolls and the
Right.
evil
So many
people out
trolls.
there. I thought I could almost recognize it by sight, but I'm not seeing it now. Oh, I know they had this one. I think Court TV ran some of this. Let's see what we got here. If it's one of the same ones, I will. I'm looking here at the little note on top. This might be one that we've already looked at, but let's see. But, yeah, we already heard that one. Sorry, I'm not gonna retread that one. Let's see if we can find. The first one was. It's funny. You could almost see in the 3 or 4 parts that she presented this change in her. From this being enamored with the system and almost excited about what she had learned and how the whole thing to this, why are people so mean? That was kind of the final, the upshot of part 3, which was sad in a way. Where are you, girl? She posts a lot. I will tell you that much. She is not.
I love her. She's very smart. No wonder she was elected jury foreperson.
Yeah, and she's
incredibly smart. I want to have her
keeping
on the show. I wish she'd contact us. If somebody
I
knows her,
know.
contact us because
Well, I know we've reached out to her obviously through direct messaging
Right,
and her
right.
social media. But yeah, she's really decided what she is and isn't going to do, and uses this forum, which is interesting. I may not be able to find the last one. I think she works somehow in either marketing or tech or a combination of the two. Well, I'm not having much luck here. Looking for part 1 is really what I'm looking for, but it's not labeled as such. And like I said, I don't want to be flopping some of these. I mean, it's TikTok. It's out there. Anybody wants to look, they can. But I don't want to promote some of these. Oh, this one looks like it might be new. There it is. I found it.
Wow,
I found
great.
it. Hold on.
I trusted you.
I did not trust myself.
That's why I waited around. Just like the Bills quarterback of the Jets are playing last week when they played. Everyone left early. He said, "Have faith, people."
I know.
I'm still here.
I always think that's funny. Okay, let me find her here again. I got it queued up. I do have it. So we've seen them kind of backwards, but this is again her attempt to kind of address some of the questions and people's thoughts.
I'm going to answer some questions now, but I do want to preface, okay? For one, not a single member on the jury knew anything about this case before being selected to serve on the jury, okay? First and foremost. Number 2, as far as people's concerns as to me being on social media and posting my TikToks in the last week or 2, there was no rule stating that we cannot be on social media. The rule is provided by Judge Everett in this case, okay? We cannot seek out information about this case. We cannot talk about the case with anyone. We cannot listen to others talk about the case. We cannot do anything in regard to the case during the trial. But now that I'm released as a juror, I have the freedom to say and do whatever. But also in that regard, I don't watch the news. It's depressing. I haven't watched the news in years. If anything, I'll check my weather app, my little Apple weather app once a week just to see.
Maybe that's a message for everybody. You can be happier. Don't watch the news. Maybe don't fixate on it, perhaps. But she was pointing out because she posts, and she said, "I can post all I want, just can't talk about the case." Right. So people were ragging on her, I guess, because she was posting during the trial.
I think good courts have understood now that, the whole thing of, oh, you can't even go on social media. You can't do that anymore. All right. So you
Yeah.
just got to work around it. Just like in the old days, they took their TV set on at channel 2, 4, 5, 7, and 11. Hey, when the news came out, you just turned it off or whatever, or you went to a channel that maybe had, some educational aspect to it. So, I mean, there's no difference in social media because you can't live without it. Simple as that.
Yeah. Yep. And one way to get somebody to do something is tell them not to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Where I am the most
Sure.
active is mostly like TikTok shop videos, like members of like the moms of TikTok community, because that is the content that I typically engage and interact with. I also post that type of content sometimes, just like trendy, funny, like music videos, whatever else like that. Basically like stupid humor and then mom stuff. That's what I look for on social media. So I'm not breaking any rules. Along with that, I have time before court, during our 1 hour, at least minimum, lunch break during the days of the trial, and then after court to do as I will in regard to all of that. So no rules were broken. No rules are being broken now. I appreciate all of your guys' concern. I'm also going to prove that I was on the jury because there's some of you who's doubt it. Here is my appreciation letter from Mr. Stephen Everett, the judge on this case, thanking me for my...
That's nice that he does that. Personal letter or something somewhat personal.
Wow.
I don't
Wow.
I don't think I'm aware of that before. I'm going to be expecting one of those.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, a personal letter from the judge who's sitting there, not just from the head of the Supreme Court or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, that is nice.
service. Along with that, my document stating I served in the jury every single day of the trial. So also this lovely thing called public record. Just an FYI. Now with that, I will get into some of these questions, okay? I am excited. I learned so much, and like about the case, but also about the law, and I like that excites me. That I thought it was a cool experience, a crazy first time jury experience. So yeah. Anyway, I stated I was the foreperson, and I was, because when we got back to deliberate, once the bailiffs were out of the room and we could, talk about whatever, I asked everyone. I asked everyone if anyone wanted to be the foreperson, and everyone was kind of like, I was like, okay, can I do it? Like, can I please? Also,
I find that fascinating.
That's great. Oh, that's great.
She asked, anybody want to be, and then by default, and she did it probably in a way where people were still kind of, sizing up the room, and so she took charge, and to me that's fascinating.
So because I wanted to stay on point with what we were supposed to do, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't want someone else to have the opportunity to be foreperson and then just take us a million different directions. And I know how my brain works, so I was just, very sequential and purposeful with my questions and discussions and what we talked about, whatever. So overall, it took us about just over 3 hours to deliberate and reach our final verdict, right? But within the first hour and a half, I want to say, everyone was agreeing that she is guilty. It was unanimous within the first hour and a half. But as the foreperson, you need to be looking for, the different body language, people's facial expressions, all of that, just who may be unsure of something. And we had that. We had 2 people who said they thought she was guilty. They're like, but I'm kind of confused on this one thing, this like 0.2 on count 2 of her charge, right? So with that, I was like, okay, absolutely not. We are not unanimous right now, so we're going to go over things. And we went over things point by point, okay? We started count 1. Count 1 was the charge for first-degree murder, and it had several different points that we needed to, address. We went over definitions, we went over principle and how that would apply, all of the different things. We listed out, we had a whiteboard in there.
Oh, wow.
And most of us are visual people. And so we used the whiteboard to go over each point, list out everything that like people just said that like applied and whatever. Those people who seemed a little unsure at first, they ultimately what was needed, they needed the visual. But
So that I think is interesting. That in Florida, especially, it's a murder charge and it stands alone, and the liability is through principle, and that can get some people confused. That, well, she didn't pull the trigger, so why are we even talking about murder? We should be, conspiracy. I understand. Solicitation, I understand. How do we get to her pulling the trigger? And so she's, making the point that that if people had concern about that, and it sounds like they
Right.
did, that two people at least, that she just backed up and basically, I guess they had a little
Right.
lesson in principal
Right.
liability, right?
Right, exactly right. And then it's interesting. She said, I could tell by the body language,
Yeah.
right, that a couple of people are uncomfortable. And then I guess it was a discussion. And, okay, no, we're not unanimous. Let's talk about it. What a great, I mean, just as a great foreperson, really.
Yeah.
We
She
have
could
seen
have-
two jurors read and hear that the four people were just amazing, Michael.
Yeah, she could have ramrodded this thing through, at that 1.5 hour point where she felt like everybody was in agreement.
Right.
But she asked the broader question and sensed, sounds like it wasn't somebody saying, until she pressed them. They weren't
Right.
saying, it was like the body language, which led her to press them, which led them to admit, yeah, I'm not comfortable with this. So, they
Right.
went to the whiteboard and had a little lesson.
we went over
Right.
everything several times because this is a big decision and this is serious, and we all took our duty very seriously. Like, this isn't just fun and games and like, although it is a very cool experience to talk about now and it's exciting, it is someone's life, and it is the law, and we all took it very serious. So, like, I need people to understand that. We went over everything, talked about everything over and over. In about the 3 hour mark, once we were like, moving and grooving, we voted several different times in several different ways. I first had everyone, we went like by each count, right? So I had everyone go one at a time in order of our juror numbers. So 1 through 12. I was like, okay, so for count 1 point, like whatever, count 1 in general, is she guilty or not guilty? And I had everyone go one at a time. We all agreed guilty. After that, we did like an all at once vote. And I was like, okay, so for count 1, like, raise your hand if you think she's guilty. We all raised our hands, but it's still doing our duty as we're supposed to. Went over it again. And so, people were still talking, just like, they're sharing their thoughts with each other about the case and whatever. I was passing out 12 pieces of paper for everyone to write their final verdict down. And then I emptied like one of the little containers we had for our snacks and had everyone put it in there. And I did this because I wanted people to, and I said this too, if anyone who's on the jury with me sees this, they know that I did this. I told people, I want you to be 100,000, 50 billion% sure
Love it.
of your verdict. So I want people to write down what they honestly feel and think based on the evidence and the law provided. And without feeling pressured to go along with what everyone else is saying, this is how we can be sure that everyone's on the same page. So write down your final verdicts. We'll go over it. All 12 pieces of paper said guilty. And before I filled out the final verdict form that we had to fill out, we did one more vote. And I went around and everyone needed to tell me out loud and to each other that they found her guilty on all 3 accounts. And that's what we did. And then, filled filled out the verdict form, signed and dated it, knocked for the bailiffs to let them know that we were ready once they got set up in the courtroom. We went out there. Judge asked the foreperson to stand. That was me. It didn't show the jurors, but it was me. And I signed the verdict form, which I believe will be public record. But anyway, after that, he read the, what do you call it, published the verdict. And then, there was that outburst that we all saw. And we had to go back to the jury room. And when we came out, because the parties said that they wanted, Judge Everett went one by one, once again, with all of the jurors, and wanted to hear us say under oath that we find her guilty. And that is what happened. It was such a wild experience. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
I
wow.
can't wait to share so much more.
Wow.
There you go.
Wow. There you go. I mean, she did everything right. I mean, there should be if you want to have somebody train jurors, have the jury foreperson read the juror to her. This is amazing. I mean, listening to her over and over. She's amazing. She's just amazing.
Yeah. I wonder about her background. Schooling, classes, life experience, because it's an interesting mix. She almost avoids the news, says she never watches it. And yet when faced with a very newsworthy, fact-based story where, somebody's life is literally in your hands, she has no problem grasping it. It's not like she's in a bubble. Ooh, I don't watch the news. I don't know what the real world is like. It's very interesting skill set that she has. Wow. I'm blown away by her and listening to her, and I'm blown away by these videos, and I'm just blown away. I think she's phenomenal, and so were the jurors, and so were the other jurors. I mean, quite frankly. Yeah, and I think there were a couple of sheep. I really think there were, and they certainly wouldn't have raised a hand saying, "I don't understand." They just would have. They would have gone on. Mm-hmm. I saw a couple of them, and Georgia Kappelman, when she's voir direing those folks, she called out "shy guy." Well, shy guy got on the jury, and he was sitting there probably 2 seats from the jury foreperson. I never saw him do anything that looked like anything but a shy guy. I could just tell body language, everything. He whatever the group wants, that's where he's going. You're gonna have that. You're gonna have that on any jury. But you as a lawyer, as you pick jurors like that. You want to have you want to have your juror who is the wolf, as they say, yes. Leading the rest of the group, and so you'll pick jurors that you don't really care about because they'll just go along. Yep, I want the followers as long as my guy or girl is the leader. Yeah, right. I want your person to be the leader. Yeah, I don't know that I would have picked her. Sized her up as the foreperson. When I was impaneling this jury, I don't think you did. I don't. Oh, well, I know I didn't from sitting there. No, I picked the secretary. But even during the whole process, as I see her now, unless I had a very interesting back and forth during voir dire, I would not have guessed she'd be the foreperson. Yeah. Oh well. So we'll see on her predictions, as we heard her predictions on Wendy. We'll see, A, is there going to be an arrest, and B, what will the charges be? Yep. I tend to believe if it's going to happen, and I think it is, that it will be the full boat. It'll be the same 3 that Charlie faced, same 3 that Donna faced. That's what I think. And a wing in the state prison is what you're betting on. That's one of our commenters said there's going to be a new wing, an Adelson wing. In the prison. But I tell you what, again, I'll repeat as I do every time we close the show, dealing with the Adelsons. The young people that I feel sorry for are the 2 children who are around 13 and 15, I guess, at this point. Somewhere's around. Let's use the math. 14 and 15, one almost 16. Yeah, so. Whatever. 2 years to adulthood, one. But, whatever happens, there's the true victims here, because this is a horrible situation. Yeah. Yeah. Their lives, they're going to be messed up unless they have been getting help and will continue to get help. And it's not over. The story's not over. How'd you like to be living with your mom, knowing whatever you may know, and I'm sure they filter as best they can, but kids, they're out there now. they're
Right.
out there.
Right.
And you hear things about your mom, and then what if that day arrives? I mean, what, you killed my dad?
Yeah. But even knowing your uncle got convicted, and then they may, I don't
Sure,
believe
and
you,
your grandma.
and grandma. Oh, it's just horrible. And
Yeah.
they never really knew the father, and because remember, everyone was concerned. And in Wendy's trial, you'd have if she does get arrested, you're going to have the issue of her asking, because that was a hint, it was a
Mhm.
clue. Did she ever ask you, Jeff, since this was your area, about what age children's memories start forming? All right, then
Yeah.
that was
Why
a
do you ask
clue.
that question? Why? Why would you ask that question?
Right.
Unless A, you either hope they don't remember this period of time because you're doing bad things, or B, they don't remember their dad, which is fine with me.
Yeah, yeah, which is exactly what and even grandma. Remember, one of the things that was against her in the wiretaps is that hey, the older boy, he spends 25% of his time with me. He's not sad about missing his father.
Yeah, right.
Oy vey.
Yeah, they're not going to
Oy,
remember anything anyway. Yeah.
yeah. Oy vey. Oy vey.
Okay.
All right.
Well, fascinating, and obviously the continuation of our coverage of this story will be whatever the news of the day dictates.
Right.
But we thought it was important to get into the mind of the jury foreperson in one of the most unique ways I've ever seen somebody talk about a case.
Right. All right. So with that, please hit subscribe, share, like, and notify on Justice Served TV. Get us to the 30,000 mark, our next benchmark. We can only do that if you subscribe to our channel, and hopefully YouTube will send you a notice when we're
Yeah,
on air.
that'd be great.
Yeah, wouldn't that be
Yeah.
novel? Okay.
All right, and tomorrow comments. We have comments show coming tomorrow. So when you look at what we do and read, and feel free to make your own comments.
And,
Maybe
and
someday we'll have
yeah.
some on for you.
And I should say, though, before we close the show, that today is a very somber day.
It
While
is.
we've been
Can't
talking
forget.
about it, this is for those of us in New York City, and we hadn't mentioned at the beginning, but we think we owe it to all the people that died on 9/11. As I was in New York, I was actually at the Lincoln Tunnel about to go through on the other side, headed to federal court. It is truly a somber day here for the whole country, 9/11. I know that there's been a lot of things that have happened this past week while we're on the air. This channel right now is just focused on trials, but that doesn't mean that our minds and our hearts aren't with what's been going on since 9/11 and before in this country, and to certain families that have just suffered terrible violence in this country this week.
Well said. All right, Michael Bryant here, Linda Kenny Bodden. This is Justice Served TV. We'll see you next time. Trying to do the right thing.